All right, YouTube. Today we have a fun, interesting topic today on our podcast, and it's about the elusive home life balance, which really doesn't exist. So it's about home life happiness and how do you actually get it. So watch this one. It might hit you in the gut a little bit, but it's going to ultimately help you and make sure your business goes a lot smoother and you have a big ass smile on your face. So as always, hit that subscribe button, leave a little thumbs up, leave us a comment, and thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. One shot, now the future is yours. What's going on, BE3? Jeff Beggins and
Mike Puma.
When we have an interesting topic today, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm having a fun time. We are introducing a new member to our management team, Vice President Agent Development, and pretty cool agent. Was working with Berkshire for several years, came over to us to help us grow some of the big initiatives. So I'm spending the last few days coaching one-on-one with the current agents, introducing him into the mix, and it's kind of fun.
Yep.
And one of the things that keeps on coming back is scheduling. What are the goals for the end of the year? What 2020? What can we do to help you? All the typical stuff that you want to do to support the agents. But the issue is, how do I find the work-life balance? And it comes up so often. And I think that those watching our tribe has probably the same issue. So I thought it'd be an interesting debate for us today to talk about what is work-life balance. Is there really one? Is it real? Is it a unicorn, or what's going on with that? So let's banter a little bit about that.
I don't know how anyone else can decide what is considered balanced other than that individual, right? What's balanced for me is, let's put this in perspective. If I was working 70-hour weeks, right? And my family was used to that, but I said, no, I need more balance in my life. And I go to working 50-hour weeks. To a lot of people, maybe that is still way too much work, and that's not even anywhere near work-life balance. But compared to working 70 or 80-hour weeks, that was insane balance, right? But it's so prescriptive compared to the individual and their family that I think it exists. I just think it exists individually for that person and their family.
I think I agree with you on that aspect of it. It is a total BS perception of you trying to benchmark yourself against somebody else, which is ridiculous. How do you judge yourself being in balance or out of balance? Against what?
Right.
Against who? So just because you look at Joe, and Joe works and he goes home every day at 5 and he does whatever he does, and you think he's got good work-life balance, and you're sitting working till 11:30 and you feel like you don't have work-life balance. Where does that thought even come from? Because you're doing you and Joe's doing Joe.
What if we replace the word balance with happiness?
Right?
Right? I think the conversation changes. Work-life happiness, right? Because the way I look at it is, what if I'm happier at work?
Right.
Then is my balance at work? Should I work more? Maybe I don't work enough, right? If that's my happy place, maybe 40, 50 hours isn't enough. Maybe I wish I could spend 80 hours at work, and that would make me happier at home because I'm happier because I'm getting to do what I want to do. Good right? Point. And so now when you restrict how much I can do there, and that's my happy place, then I'm grumpier at home, which makes everyone more like, you know what I mean? Like it could go both ways.
And but that's a great point.
If we focus on happiness, where are you happy?
That's a good point, because you put the pressure on yourself. I know I do it.
Yeah.
I put pressure on myself to not work sometimes, and it gets aggravating because I absolutely freaking love what I do.
Right.
And it's not work.
It's not work, so you don't view it that way.
It's not work. I mean, literally, it's 12:30 at night, and I'm like, damn it.
Right.
I got to go to get some sleep.
Absolutely.
And I'd rather not, because I love doing what I'm doing, and it's fun.
Yeah, and there are times where you're like,
think that's totally whacked out balance. But my wife probably enjoys it because she's got some peace and quiet, and I'm loving it because I'm getting some stuff done, and it's a happiness across the board. But maybe to some people, it's not a good balance.
Well, and to some people, they're not communicating or open enough with their significant other or whoever's upset about it. The only time, in my opinion, this becomes a major issue is when there's not clear communication between all the affected parties. And I say affected parties. Don't let your friend right? Judge you and make you feel bad about the way your family dynamic works from a work-life balance perspective, because they have no say, right? Does it matter? Are you
family.
If you work less, is that affecting them in any way, right? It only affects the immediate people around you. So if there's not communication there, that's an issue. They'll get mad, right? But my wife will tell me, like, we'll have that conversation. Hey, you haven't put down your phone. I'd love to get 30 minutes of your time. Okay.
Right.
Then I may not want to put down my phone, but that's obviously a realization to me, like, okay, she needs this. She's important to me.
Right.
So now I'm going to find that balance, right? And make sure that she's happy, because if she's happy, I'm happy. And so that plays out.
Right.
So then I'll do that, right? But you have to do that. The problem is a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people that spouse is not going to say, hey, put your phone down. They just get pissed.
Right.
Right. And then that builds and builds and builds and builds to a point with some people where it gets to a point of no return.
Yep.
So to me, that's the issue. There's a lack of communication and understanding amongst the dynamics within your own, family.
I agree. And that turns down into getting clear about what the goal is, right?
Right.
Because work-life happiness also goes in spurts, right? I know I'm on a super crazy marathon right now because I've got a little girl coming in a few weeks.
Yep.
Right. And I know for a fact that my work-life happiness is going to flip completely on purpose, because I'm not going to be into work at all.
Right.
For a while, because I'm going to be completely into the happiness of welcoming this new girl into the world. Right. And
Yep.
I can't wait. So, but building up to that point in time, I've got zero problem getting up at 4:30 and working until 12:30, because it makes me happy, because I know I'm getting shit done. So when that flips for me, I'm not pressured, because I'm checking the boxes and all the stuff I need to get done, so I can have that happiness. It's not a balance. It's a complete imbalance again, but it's creating happiness.
All right.
Now, does it create happiness for my wife right now? No. Right? Because if I have to go do things, I got to go do things, but I'm doing it because I know it creates the ultimate flow of happiness later.
Right. But as long as that framework is created and everyone on the team is on the same game plan, then it works.
Right.
Right? It's just like anything else. If you're playing football and the quarterback has one play in his head and the running back has another and the wide receiver has another,
Yep.
the play's never going to work, right?
But
when everything's in sync, they're going to throw a touchdown. Now, if they throw that touchdown to the wide receiver, the running back may be like, man, I wish I got to run that ball in. But ultimately, the goal of the team was to score a touchdown,
That's right?
And so everyone's still going to be happy. And so it's just a matter of creating that framework within your unit, your team, that makes sense. And then building a business and a time frame that allows you to execute on that happiness. If your happiness is work, then do that, right? But if your happiness is you say, listen, I really don't love what I do that much, then I think you should quit and find what you do love. But if that's not an option, then I think you need to realize, okay, if in real estate, if I really want to find my happy place is coaching my kid on Saturdays, but I can't do that because I'm working with too many buyers, then that takes a realization like, okay, yes, I love the money that comes from working with these buyers, but I'm going to take a little bit of a hit in the short term on my financials so that I can focus on working with listings, because listings will allow me to eventually get to a place where I can work less on Saturdays and go coach my kid, which is the happiness. Right. That's creating balance for me.
Intentionally.
So intentionally building a business that allows you to get to your happy place. Not balance, happy place.
Let's talk. Here's an interesting point. One of the coachings I was doing with this agent, she works with her husband, right? And trying to figure out the balance on how this thing's going to work, which creates a whole different set of aggravation sources, right? When you're 24/7 with somebody, eventually it's annoying, right? So they have to figure out where the schedule is. And we got into the discussion about goals, right? And the key part to me about goals is it's not just you achieving them. It's when you know it's okay to turn it off, right? So in their particular case, $20,000 a month is what they want to feel comfortable, right? That pays the bills. It chips off the debt. It saves for an investment property, allows the cool vacations that they want to go do. Kids have school paid for. 20 grand a month is a good, comfortable number for them. So I'm like, okay, so how many deals is that, right? That's 4, right? In about a ballpark what they need to do. So that's 1 a week. So I'm talking about chunking down to simplicity. Go get one good contract, property under contract, one new listing is where the focus right now, a week. And all your attention is on getting a good follow-up done to find that one appointment. When you have it and you're done and you're on track for 20 grand this month, check the box.
Yep.
Right? Go to the beach.
Yep.
Take a little vacation. Relax a little bit because you got that big ass smile on your face and you are successful. And we sometimes get in this mind that we have to, 20 is good, but I got 14 other people I can get 5 more under contract and I'll get 80 grand this month, right? You're going to kill yourself. You're going to have no happiness and you don't really need it.
Yep.
Right. So that's the other part about work-life happiness is pick your number and do it. And then it's okay. Once you have 20 grand this month, you told me that's going to make you happy. Then you know what? Hey, John, do you want a client? Pay me a referral fee. I'm going to Mexico.
Right.
Right. And then you're done. Now, next month, you need to go get the other 20. So stockpile your pipeline. But I think the important thing about goals is it doesn't tell you where you're going necessarily only. It tells you when you're there and when you can check that box and go off. So that's a big indicator for work-life balance also.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think the biggest challenge most people have with this is we're so afraid of judgment that we lie to ourselves and everyone else, right? If you don't enjoy coaching your kids on Saturday, but you tell yourself that you do because you think that's what you should care about, then you are going to ultimately fail because you're going to be miserable because you're out coaching your kid on Saturday and you really wish you were showing clients around.
And you're pandering to somebody else's bullshit perception of what you think they think you should be.
This is a hard thing, and I get it because a lot of times it means you're going against the popular opinion.
Yep.
But to you to sit there and when we open this up and say, I love to work, right? It's my happy place.
Yep.
I would rather sit there at 11 o'clock and work than sit with my wife and do nothing, right? If that is a true statement, you need to be able to say that, right? And what most people do is say, I shouldn't say that. So I don't know. I don't really think that. I'd rather do that.
Right.
But you're creating unhappiness, which ultimately lays major cracks in a foundation and will eventually expose itself.
What you're going to do is you're going to sit there watching some Netflix show thinking, God, this sucks.
Yeah, I could be doing this, I could be doing this,
thing.
And that literally that will happen.
You're not engaged and you're not happy, so why do it?
So stop lying to yourself. Don't cater to anyone else. And then once you have that, be honest with the people that it's going to impact. Have that conversation. It's why I love our Art of Life Betterment right process. And unfortunately, a lot of our agents don't take advantage of it. But what I liked about it when I first did it was not just me doing it, having Courtney do it. Because it's important. Because when we look at those, her wants and needs and her life, Art of Life Betterment was very different than mine. But it allowed us to really sit back so she knows, she looks at me differently. If I'm overworking and it's annoying her, she now has it in the back of her mind like, oh, you know what though? He really enjoys it. It's not work. And so she doesn't resent me for it anymore.
So
right?
that cabin in the woods is coming.
Right. She lets it go. And she's going to understand. There's an understanding that comes with that.
That's right.
In the same way that I understand that when she's on her computer planning the next trip and all the details, right? I'm okay with that, even though it annoys the crap out of me.
Right.
Because I don't want to have everything planned necessarily. I get that that's her thing, right? And so it's just this understanding. And I think that's the key. And building a business that is actually going to create happiness, whatever that happiness is. But you will not get there if you lie to yourself.
And dig a little bit deeper on that one, because ultimately, and this may sound wrong to say this, but who really matters ultimately, right? If you're not happy with yourself, with what's going on, you're not going to bring happiness to anybody around you.
Ever.
So most people try to fit into a box or a mold that Facebook think is good or Instagram is good or the neighbors think is good or their best friends want. You compare yourself to what the other neighbor's doing or what your wife thinks you think your wife should be thinking and what your friend's wife does and all that stuff. And there's too many things that are inputting into your brain, and ultimately none of it matters because nobody cares. Right? Ultimately, nobody really gives a crap about what you're doing except for you. And if you're doing anything thinking that somebody else really cares, that's not true. I mean, ultimately, at some level, your wife doesn't really care what you're doing.
No.
Right? She might support it and accept it. She doesn't care. It doesn't matter to her. The outcome does. But
Right.
if you start saying, God, should I really take on this new initiative? She doesn't care.
No.
It doesn't really
affect
matter
her.
to you. Now, if you get excited about it, you go home juicing like, this is cool as hell, you're going to be happy, which means that you'll probably get some more income. You guys can do some more trips and start saving to get some more investment properties and all that stuff that she'll appreciate the outcome, but she doesn't necessarily have to like the process of it being made, right? So stop worrying about what the partners are thinking ultimately. I mean, sometimes, guys, if there's too much resistance to what you like and you get the resistance, things sometimes don't go well together.
Yeah, you're not aligned.
They're not aligned.
You're
And
not
if
aligned.
you're not aligned, either get aligned or get unaligned.
Yeah.
And if you're really happy doing what you're doing, because if you're trying to undo what you're doing to be happy to satisfy somebody else's thinking, A, it's never going to work, and now you have two unhappy people.
You're
So
delaying.
what's the whole point
You're
of that?
delaying the inevitable.
Right. So
It will expose itself at some point. It will. It'll either create major resentment when the kids are gone. It will. At some point, it will rear its head.
So we didn't know we were
just
doing
will.
a psychological session here today, right?
I know. We just caused 37 people to get divorced today. That was not the
But
intent.
before that happens, because that should never happen, or maybe it should, right? Sometimes it should.
Maybe it should.
But I like the point of taking life betterment, saying spouse A, spouse B. What life makes you happy? B, what spouse makes your life happy? Do yours. Let me do mine. Can we find common ground here?
At least that's the way I took it. That was kind of the point of the Art of Life Betterment.
Right.
Right? Was this is what I care about. This is my roadmap to get there.
Right.
Here's what you care about and your roadmap to get there. And what you end up finding is that there's a lot of commonalities.
A
right?
couple, at least a few.
Some overlap. And here's what I mean. When we did ours, I care a lot of my goals were more work and business related, right? A lot of Courtney's were more, I want to go here, I want to travel here, I want you to take more vacation, I want you to do those things, right?
Yeah.
So at the surface level, you look at those and go, those are completely opposite. You want to work more, she wants you to work less, right? I look at that and say, no, not necessarily, because if I can accomplish these things from a business perspective, that creates the economics that allows me to take time and go to the places that she wants to go to, right? So ultimately, there's overlap. One feeds the other, right? Now, she may not see it that way in the beginning. I may not see it that way. But when we actually got done and looked at it and said, yeah, you know what? There's a lot of overlap here. And so that's the whole point of the exercise. You two have got everyone involved. And even if it's just you and your kids, right? There's a lot of single parents out there that are like, oh, well, my kids expect this. Do they? Have you actually talked to them? They might think you're a jerk at home and don't want you at home, right? Like, I'm serious. Like, this is a reality. This is like something that people don't want to talk about. But the reality is, if you are not happy being at home, I venture to say, if your kids were completely honest, they're probably not happy that you're home because you're probably not happy. You're not happy when you're home, so you're not probably very nice to them.
Because your energy is giving off the negative
and it's a negative vibe. They probably would prefer that you're gone, right? So like, that's hard to hear, but wouldn't it be a lot better if then you weren't there and when you were actually happy? And then so, yes, maybe it's less time overall, but you're actually spending higher quality time, happier time. I mean, there's so many things that I think we cater to as a society, and this being a huge one, where there are some people that for them, life balance is I want to work 10 days a year and have complete passive income. Cool. That's balance for them, right? There's others that like, I wish I could work every day of the year. It doesn't matter. It's so across the board. It's finding that happiness and balance within your own.
And the common goal. I mean, like my challenge is my wife won't do this. And that's okay because
she won't do the Art of Life Betterment.
She doesn't like doing the Art of Life Betterment. She doesn't want anything to do with it. And
just freaks her out.
Doesn't want to do it. And I'm total acceptance of people. So, I mean, sure, what are you going to do? You're going to force her to do it? No, I'm not going to force her to do it. Does it make things more difficult? Absolutely. Because there's one person running down the path.
Harder to understand.
It's harder for her to understand what I do because she's not inside of my head. Right. And it's harder for me to understand what she does because I'm not inside of her head. So eventually, right, we'll get on the same page as far as that. But the reality of it is I know a lot of you watching have the same situation, but that's okay. Because she didn't sign up for any rule book that says she has to follow my line of shit that I like to do, right? Just because it helps me doesn't mean it helps her, and that's fine. So we find our own ways to get things done. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we got to say, look, at the end of the quarter, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I'm going to bring in this. And when I bring in this, if you don't want to participate in the ultimate to-do list, I'm just going to tell you what the to-do list is, and you can choose to like it or not, right? And you're welcome to chime your stuff in whenever you want to, but without the participation, I'm just going to come up with it.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to go do. So at the end of my quarter, this happens, this happens, this happens. And at the end of a year from now, I'm working towards this. At the end of 5 years from now, this is what I'm expecting from a vacation schedule and travel and experiences and all. So this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I hope you want to enjoy the ride, right? Yeah. And then hopefully enjoy the creation of the next ride, because we do it every quarter, and eventually I'll wear her down, right? And I know she's watching this, so I will. And but that's the whole point. So, but you kind of go with the flow, and it is what it is. And then for me, I know what I'm doing, and I don't deviate from what I'm doing, because it's going to get done, because I have that goal. But where I'm not, and this is another point, this is also goes in waves. I mentioned earlier, I'm going full on throttle right now, because in 3 weeks I'm not.
Right.
And I'm also going even more full throttle, because I know what happens with market cycles, and I know kind of where we are in this cycle. And I know when the market turns a little bit, it's going to change and pivot what's able to be happened. Right? The work's not going to be the same. So you're taking advantage of the opportunities when they're here, because when the market shifts, there'll be plenty of opportunity to just be different, and it's going to have to pivot. So when you find something, you find a little gold mine that's printing gold, you work the hell out of that gold mine, right? And then when it stops spitting out gold, you got to go find another shaft, right? That's the whole point. So when you're finding something that's working, take advantage of it while you have it, and just roll and
Absolutely.
roll and get the people aligned with you to realize that you found a honey hole, and you're going to ride that baby as long as you can, right? So that's also a happiness balance also. And so it's a realization, self-awareness of when things are really good, take them.
Yep.
And sometimes that creates an imbalance, but it's worth it, because those of you who've been doing this long, like I've been doing this a long time, we know what happens on the other side of this market when the phones don't ring, and you can't just do an Instagram post and get 4 people to say, I want to buy a house, right? Most people have never seen the other side. Right. So we always constantly say, work now, because it's so great, because you'll have time to not work later, unfortunately. So just do it. So where is the balance? There is no balance. Balance is a mystical unicorn that doesn't make any sense and has no sense in reality.
Yeah. So
it's
not about balance. It's about happiness.
Happiness, and figure out what puts that big ass smile on your face and what works inside of your unit.
Yeah.
Right? Whoever your support system is, you've got to get online, on page, or at least let them know that you're just going to keep doing it. So let's hit something tactical that I worked with this couple I was talking about before. So they've got 2 kids, right? And they've got both of them in the business, 2 young kids, not in school yet. Oof. And that creates a lot of problems, right? Yep. Who's watching the kids? Who's doing this? Who's dropping off at preschool? Who's doing what? Who's prospecting? Who's doing the leads? And how do you deal with that? So this all came down to the simple thing I always do, the simple time blocking, right? Yep. So you got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. In essence, let's get all of your stuff done. This is a couple that needs $20,000 a month, right? $20,000 a month. So we need to get one good solid deal a week in the marketplace that they're working in. So who's doing what on which days? She's taking off Wednesdays. He's working on Wednesdays. They have got their little deals flexible out there. So they're like, okay, so now you have to do your lead gen, right? At some point in time. And I don't care when it is, but it has to be your gospel time. I always prefer mornings, because less things distract you. So before anything can distract you, first thing is go through lead gen. And in their world, they've got hundreds of leads, and they're not following up well. So the first thing they're doing is going through all lead follow-up, putting it all on one database, turning it into greens and yellows and reds. And so with one glance at a document, they can see how many leads are real. And then the simple question is, of those greens, are any of them going to bring me $20,000 this month or $5,000 this week? Yeah. And the answer is, if yes, great. Can we set an appointment for Tuesday at 1:30 or Thursday at 3? So I have them set up that I'm able to take appointments at 1:30, 3:30 on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yep.
Right? And that's it. So their whole job is they've got 4 little buckets to fill. That's it. So that's a listing appointment or a buyer appointment. And all their work is designed to fill this one. And you're not going to get every deal that you go on. So they have to go on at least 2 good solid listing appointments a week, or 2 great buyer showings, pre-approved buyers a week. Right. That's it. So this is their time to do it, because Wednesday's sacred for her. This day is sacred for him. So they had to work that happiness out amongst themselves to say, you got the kids these days, this is where you take them to school, you take them to school. So, and the reality is you only have 3 hours sometimes in a day.
Yeah.
Right. If you're really honest with yourself about what are you going to do? So now you got to be super efficient from 9:30 until 1. And that's the only time you have. So you cannot screw around. You got to be straight, like surgical with your time, because to make, first of all, how many people make 20 grand a month? Not many. Right. So to make 20 grand a month is, first of all, you're lucky as hell to have an industry you could just go do that. But you've got to work smart. And so that's kind of a tactical way, is if you don't have your schedule blocked out in a point where you know for sure, I do my appointments at Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at either 1:30 or 4. And now every time you do anything, you know that those are the times that you're doing. Then I think you're wasting time.
The schedule for me is a very tactical way of creating this life happiness that we keep talking about, because even when it comes to the things outside of work, when you have those things, put them on your calendar.
Yep.
So you hold yourself accountable, and you know, like if your happiness is sitting on the couch from 7 to 9 and with your spouse and watching a show, literally put it on your calendar. 7 to 9, I'm sitting on the couch. This is my thing, right?
Phone off, Netflix.
Correct. Happiness. You're out of touch. But what that allows you to do is, when I pull up the calendar in the morning and I know, okay, I'm busy during this time. Kids have practice here, so I'm not going to get anything done there. But that means that I have this window to get stuff done. So now let me prioritize that and hold myself accountable during these hours, because I'm not going to do them during here. There's got to be those non-negotiables in your calendar, whether that's family time, gym, stuff with the kids, stuff with the spouse. Those non-negotiables have got to be on there, and those are got to be, if they're your true happiness, those have got to be treated like non-negotiable. That is not negotiable. I am doing this during that time frame, so I'm not going to schedule anything else.
But you got to say no. So a buyer says, I want to go see properties.
I am not doing it.
On Wednesday at 10,
sorry,
I need to go see properties.
Busy.
But I need to. That's my day off.
I'm sorry. I can have one of my other agents take you there if needed.
Or I could see you Thursday at 1:30.
Right.
And then you have to be okay with saying, bye.
Yes. And the reason that's important is that is a slippery slope.
Yep.
The second you start giving up on something that makes you happy, and you do it once, then it's easier to do it again, then it's easier to do it again. And next thing you know, you haven't been in the gym in a month, and you feel bad about yourself, which makes you angry at home, which pisses off those people, which then makes your friends mad, and then you're shitty at work. It literally will snowball, and it's probably happened to you.
Living under a bridge.
Right. That's a pretty steep fall, but it could happen. But I mean, you get it. I'm sure there's people watching that have been there. They're like, shit, yeah, that's happening. It happens.
Yep.
So the only way to avoid that is to literally have those times and be able to say no. I mean, it's truly got to be, if it makes you happy, it's a non-negotiable.
Yep. You're right.
So
time block it.
That's it. So I hope this helped, guys.
I don't know if we solved any problems or created more questions, but I hope that the major takeaway is happiness. And if it's not making you happy, don't do it.
It's got to be the name of the game.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thanks for watching, guys.